Good afternoon, FPU students, and welcome back to Kinesiology 120 Concepts of Wellness. Today we'll be talking about wellness and the reality of aging and death. Hopefully, we can enlighten you and hopefully not put the fear of God in you, but death is inevitable and our time is short here on earth. A wellness perspective implies a positive outlook. But how can we find anything positive in growing old and dying? Second by second, minute by minute, we are closing in on the end. It's a grim ending. However, life expectancies have continued to increase over the past decades. But on the other hand, older adults are suffering poorer health and greater activity limitations than any other group in history. Thus, the length of our lives is increasing, but the quality of those lives is decreasing. Ask yourself a few questions. What's your outlook on aging? Have you thought about growing old and dying? Are you thinking positive and looking forward to what's next? What is next and what will it be like? What is your personal perception of death? Are you at peace with it? Or have you just accepted the fact that you cannot slow down the aging process and it is what it is? Every one of our thoughts and actions influences our overall well-being. The wellness perspective sees every day as a blessing, but with each day comes a personal wellness responsibility to focus on the positive physical, emotional, and spiritual goals to support this blessing. It's our responsibility to make the process of aging a positive one through our choices and actions. How we perceive aging depends in part what stage of life that we're in. When you are young, just like you guys are, aging cannot move fast enough. You get that driver's license, you get that first opportunity to vote. The next big deal is when you get to purchase alcohol and then rent a car. And then it just kind of becomes a blur. Prepare yourselves. However, as we approach middle age, we begin to view aging from a completely different point of view. A sense of human mortality suddenly looms on the horizon. And we are not quite so excited about reaching that next birthday. But you can have this attitude: wellness and the reality of aging. You can't put a limit on anything. The more you dream, the farther you get. Michael Phelps. Set high goals. Set some achievable, but set high goals and work your tail off, and the further you can go. Don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. Our psychosocial development is centered around different stages in the life cycle. Each stage involves certain tasks to be mastered, including basic social skills and the ability to adapt to one's changing environment. Young adulthood, your age group. Young adulthood is expected to be the time where you develop relationships and work on personal intimacy. You make a separation from your family and become part of society. You create your own families and communities. Friendships are developed. Lifelong friendships are developed. You date. You marry. Then comes on a baby, a family. During this time period, women, if they have already had a child or children, their life is turned upside down with responsibilities of other humans to take care of. Even though they're little, they make a lot of noise, believe me. On the other hand, if Females haven't had a child during this time. As they get older, that biological clock is ticking, and that window of opportunity to get pregnant, have a baby, start a family starts to narrow, and the pressure is put on, sometimes by that individual or by the individual's family and friends. Middle adulthood. Now we get to my section of the lifelong process. This is a time where individuals are able to influence and contribute back to the next generation. Middle adulthood focuses on generativity, or the concern for the next generation. The purpose of middle adulthood is to contribute, guide, teach, and provide positive models to the next generation. It allows one's accomplishments to be utilized in ensuring the next generation's endeavors. Late adulthood, 65 and up. Late adulthood brings on the need to be aware of the meaning and limitation of one's life and accepts the stage of life that they have reached. However, generativity is still in play with this age group. Older adults can also benefit from mentoring and teaching that next generation. The next generation will benefit from that mentor's experience, knowledge, and life experiences. And there's generativity, the concern for the next generation of humanity and a desire to guide that generation, being concerned for the next generation and helping them grow. Now, the aging process, how to age well. Okay, the first, maintain a low risk of disease. Successful aging is determined by the ability to maintain a low risk of disease and disease-related disabilities, taking steps to reduce the presence of disease, developing an awareness of the signs and symptoms of disease, changing lifestyle habits to improve your health, and becoming aware of new innovations, new medical alternatives to help deal with threatening conditions. This can all help you maintain a low risk of disease. Maintaining an active engagement with life. Maintain relationships that you have. Take part in fun activities. Seek meaningful and purposeful activities that give you a sense of self-worth, can make you maintain an active life. Be independent. Stay mentally active. Talk, read. Don't stop wanting to learn. Maintaining a relationship with God, one of the most essential relationships that you can have. Successful aging includes maintaining and developing one's spiritual foundation through church, reading the Bible, and prayer. Just as we said weeks ago that spiritual wellness is the foundation of your overall well-being, your relationship with God is vital to this age group, to maintain that relationship, that belief, that faith. So when death does occur, they will be able to move on to that next step of everlasting life. Now, there's some myths, there's some stereotypes that a lot of us have about older adults. We make jokes, we give our grandparents a hard time, but they're just myths. And the first one is to be old is to be sick. Older Americans are generally healthy. The percentage of older adults with high blood pressure, disabilities, high cholesterol levels, and dental problems has declined significantly over the past 20 years. Another myth, the elderly cannot broaden or sharpen their minds. Research shows that the brain can make new connections, absorbing new data and skills, and improving on short-term memory with continued practice. The speed of learning does decrease, but you're still able to attain new information. It's too late to reduce health risks and take positive steps towards better health. Wrong. It's never too late to change a lifestyle, your diet, your level of exercise, and stopping poor choices like smoking and drinking, and committing yourself to a better lifestyle and bettering your quality of life. Another myth, the elderly aren't interested in sex or able to participate in sexual activity. Okay, so this activity does decrease with age. Whether or not one is active depends mainly on the availability of an appropriate partner. A basic human need for affection and physical contact persists throughout all stages of life. So that basic human need for affection and attention does not stop with age. The elderly people are unproductive. Another wrong stereotype. Over 2/3 of older men and women still work for pay or as for volunteers. You see them all over the city working, whether it not be in a very tough role, maybe a greeter, maybe part-time, but they've got a lot to give. Elderly people are productive and still give back to society, and they still have that opportunity to teach and pass on their experience to the next generation. Stages of death. Nobody likes to talk about death or dying. We've already determined that. We tend to avoid it like the plague. However, a wellness perspective requires us to look closely at death issues as they impact ourselves, our families, and our friends. Now, you may have had the opportunities to spend time with a terminally ill person, perhaps a family member. You probably noticed an emotional progression as the person came to grips with the impending result. Stages of terminally ill patients approach death in these steps. The first is anger. They're mad at the world. Life is not fair. Why is this happening to me? The next step is denial. There's no way this is happening to me. No way. Depression is the third step. It's a reality check. Overwhelming severe sadness sets in and the patient is overwhelmed, adding to the deterioration of the person's health. Next step, bargaining. Trying to change the situation. Making a deal with God for another chance if I change my life. Acceptance. Finally, accepting the fact that it's going to happen and there's nothing that you can do about it. Now, as family members, we go through our own stages of grief. We fight through denial. We fight through anger and depression. And then we accept that it's going to happen and it's time to grieve. Now, these stages can come before or after death. Some family members may feel resentment as a result of additional responsibilities put on them because of the death. They worry about how they're going to move on and live life without their loved one. They may have guilt due to the feeling responsible for the illness or for not having done enough to respond to the illness and get them help. It's not easy dealing with death. It's a major change that affects all parties. Now, proactive planning can help ease the pain of having to deal with death. Proactive planning, discussing important topics related to death, and making decisions ahead of time. These can save stress on the part of both the survivors and can better ensure that family members will follow through with the deceased request for a funeral, for a celebration of life, whatever it may be. Traditional wills. Traditional wills provide the legal authority for the distribution of material assets and the care of any remaining dependent family members. Now, living wills and power of attorney go together. Living wills are directives for medical decisions should the person become incapable of making such decisions, whether it be illness related, they're not able to make decisions on their own. The power of attorney is a document, legal document, that designates someone other than the grantor to make decisions should the grantor be incapacitated, should the person that is affected become incapacitated. Another thing to plan for end of life is being an organ donor. Thousands of people across the country are waiting for an organ transplant surgery. Decisions made by those that die can save lives and add to the quantity and quality of others' lives after they pass on. Funeral pre-planning allows you to decide before your time expires. You go in and you make the arrangements before the time comes. This gives a person and his or her loved ones a peace of mind. This removes any burden of the family to make the arrangements after the fact. Now, during the last months, days of a terminally ill person can take place in hospice. Hospice care can take place either in the home of the affected or the ill, or in a medical facility. Terminally ill patients often express the desire to expire in familiar surroundings such as their home, surrounded by families and friends nearby. They receive palliative care, which seeks to address all the symptoms of illness with the aim of promoting comfort, dignity, and the best possible quality of life for its patients and their families. So as you deal with passing from this world, yourself or someone close to you, remember that God's word offers the strongest building blocks to your spiritual foundation and comfort to family members, giving you peace and understanding whenever you approach the subject of death. As I said before, it's inevitable. But if you live your life, giving yourself to Christ and asking for forgiveness, believing there's great, great things to come after this stage of your life. Thanks. I look forward to talking to you guys again tomorrow. This is next to the last lecture, and we'll be talking about how to put everything together in the next video.